Everyone, and welcome to another live match reaction show on Football Talk Podcast. My name is Ozzie, and I'm your host for today. What a result ended up being for Liverpool. Liverpool were victorious with a 2-1 victory. So, what we'll do during the show, we'll have a quick match review, and then we'll also do the player ratings for the Liverpool players, of course. Now, if you'd like to call in, you do have a link that is pinned in the live chat, so feel free to hit that link, and you are more than welcome to come on the show and have your say. So, let's start in terms of the match review. The game was, especially in the first half, was pretty much all Liverpool. Liverpool had most of the possession, played the better football. Everton couldn't really lay a punch on Liverpool in the first half, especially. But the goal that came from Gravenberch was something out of the clouds because it's such a beautifully executed finish. Great move in terms of the run that Gravenberch made on that right hand side and hit a half volley with the right sort of pace and execution. Lobbed it over Pickford and hit the bottom corner to make it 1-0. Great finish from the Dutchman. He had a post match interview afterwards and said that Arne has allowed him to play with a bit more freedom, slight tweak in terms of his positional sense, being a midfielder. Last season, he predominantly played as a number six. This year around, he's pretty much, been given the license to go forward when the space is presented. So he's got a bit more of a box to box stance in certain transitions of the game. So good to see that he's taken advantage of that. And what a finish it was from Gravenberch in the end. And the second goal came moments later, and what a finish that was as well. But the beauty of that goal for me was the lead up play where you've got McAllister, Szoboszlai producing 1-2s, and then you've got Gravenberch who provides the perfect through ball to Hugo Ekitike, and Hugo Ekitike pretty much had the finish already in his mind before he executed it. Produced a great first touch, and in that same kind of move, hit it right in the bottom corner through Pickford's legs to make it 2-0. And at that stage, pretty much Liverpool were in cruise control, but I'm sure a lot of us Liverpool fans were a bit concerned with that scoreline because we've had a lot of 2-0 leads in the last few games, and we have been victorious, which is good on our side, but unfortunately we've also conceded goals as well. So bit of PTSD kicking in for some of us fans there. And I was gonna say Mark Gay, I keep saying that's the second time I said it now. Idrissa Gay managed to have a shot just before halftime, but unfortunately didn't make the right execution. Scuffed the shot in the end from the edge of the box. Easy save for Allison to make. So that was halftime. And in the second half, Liverpool pretty much had the first real opening chance of that moment where Gakpo hit a crossfield pass towards Salah. Salah provided a lovely first touch, and it wasn't the first. He produced some good first touches throughout the game. Cuts inside a little bit, finds that half yard, hits a low shot, but unfortunately didn't hit it with real power and a comfortable save for Pickford in the end. But then unfortunately Liverpool conceded a goal through a Mark Gate. This is the first time in Idrissa Gay's finish. This time the work came from that left hand side. Jack Grealish, who had a busy afternoon to say the least, got one ahead of Conor Bradley where took him on the outside, which probably surprised him because with Jack Grealish being a right-footed player, he normally tends to cut inside. But this game, he showcased his talent where he can do one or the other, and did it in a manner which was a bit unpredictable for Conor Bradley to try and get used to. But in this moment, produced a left-footed cross, and it was Njai who laid it off to Idrissa Gay, and he produced a lethal shot into the back of the net. Question marks in regards to Alisson. Could he have done better there? I think it's a bit harsh to say that. I know some fans will say, look, well, look at the replay. When he saved it, the ball literally just went over his fingers, maybe even got a slight fingertips touch onto the ball. But I think in that kind of range, of course, it wasn't a few yards out, it was probably about 10 or 15 yards away. But in those kind of moments, you have to give the advantage to the attacker, hit with real power and smash it into the back of the net. So I wouldn't quite point the finger on Allison, even though I know some fans may do that on this occasion. And Liverpool tried to extend the lead later on through a Konate header from a corner kick. which was blocked by Jack Grealish on the goal line. For me, that shot was never really goal bound. It was heading towards the target, but it didn't really have enough power to beat the goalkeeper. Had that been the case, then you probably have to present some question marks for Pickford and his saving ability. And then towards the latter stages, you had Salah producing an opportunity where he's through on goal, tries to hit a low shot, but unfortunately, Tarkovsky came sliding in and made that crucial block in the end. And that's pretty much it. Overall, a good, solid performance from Liverpool. I think it was much better performance in comparison to our previous Premier League fixture, and I also feel like, this is a team where they're slowly gelling together. They're slowly finding the combinations. There were some good, solid standout performances from several players in the team. So I feel like the team are slowly getting into the right gear. They are forming the right partnerships in certain parts of the pitch, and they are playing more as a collective. So today was a good start, good sign for what is coming ahead for us in this season. But overall, I'm really pleased with the result. 5 wins on the bounce. That's 15 points out of 15. Can't really argue with that now, can we? So a good start for Liverpool. And you have to give credit to the opposition, because Everton, for me, showed a good display today. They had Grealish on the left and Jai on the right. Very much direct wingers on both parts of the pitch. So they definitely tried to, get an advantage over us, but I think our fullbacks performed really well and defended fantastically to keep those two players quiet in terms of having any impact on the game. So overall, a really, really good performance, and really pleased with how Liverpool have notched up all 3 points today against Everton. So I'm just going to go through some of the comments, and then we'll do the live chat. What should I say? We'll do the live calling if anyone wants to call in, or we'll go straight in and we'll do the player ratings as well. Ozan Kabak, big up yourself, Ozan Kabak, as always. He said 5 from 5. 5 from 5 indeed. Totally agree with that. Ozan Kabak said, but let's be honest, Ozzy, that second half performance was dire. It was, Ozan. I'm not gonna lie, you probably noticed that in the second half of the watch along. I was very quiet, not because I didn't have anything to say. I was pretty much bored and didn't really know what to talk about. I didn't want to become a full-time commentator just based on what we're seeing. We wasn't really seeing much from Liverpool. And to be fair, Everton showcased a bit more aggression, but for me, didn't really trouble us too much in the end. It was just a good finish from Idrissa Gueye in the end. I wasn't saying we were last 2 second balls or second half. Yeah, we weren't assertive in my opinion. I think there were moments where we were quite complacent with our passing, and that disrupted our rhythm. We did produce some decent counter attacks here and there, but nothing that was really worthy of us really hitting the back of the net. Salah had a good chance, but I think that moment he had two players in front of him, so very hard for him to slide the ball into the bottom corner. But for me, overall, I think we did our best work in the first half, and we managed the game correctly in the second. I was then saying we will definitely see Mamadashvili against Southampton midweek. Oh, that's definitely a certain, because a lot of the players will be rested, especially the players that started today, and we'll get to see a lot more of our squad players in that fixture, which I'm excited to see. The likes of Leone, who we haven't seen in a Liverpool shirt yet, he'll get some game time as well, and then we'll see the likes of Chiesa getting some real minutes on the pitch. Rio Ingamo, hopefully he gets a start as well as Trey Leone. Basic is back in training, so maybe he gets some minutes under his belt as well. So it'll be a very interesting team selection for that Carabao Cup tie against Southampton. Delulu Steve, big up Delulu Steve. He says, I'm starting to lose my patience with Verts. Why does he play like an under 21 academy player, afraid of contact? I think that's a bit harsh. I think that's a bit strong in terms of your analysis there. If you've lost your patience on a player that's only played 5 games, you are totally entitled to your opinion there. I think it's a bit premature. He's just come from a different league. Yes, the price tag is always going to be the talking point, but let's not forget we played against Jack Grealish today, who was £100 million player as well. He never really got that kind of treatment, in my opinion. So why is it that us Liverpool fans always go on the back of new signings and are very overcritical when it comes to these sort of new signings. So for me, you have to look at the picture. You have to look at the context in terms of the player. He's just come from a different league. You have to look at in terms of what he brings as a skill set. He's a player that I've said it a number of times. Since we've signed him, as an artist on the pitch. And ironically, Arne said the same thing a few days ago in his conference. So, you know, not even taking words out of his mouth, he pretty much said what been saying for a few months now. So those type of players would always take time to gel when it comes to playing in a new team, but also the league is being played at a very intense level in comparison to what he's used to. When he's in the Bundesliga, they don't play it at that kind of hectic speed. So that's I think the adaptation that we need for Florian Wirtz, and it will come in due time. I think at the minute we're not seeing that right now, but I think give him more game time, and we'll see that more so than not. And today he didn't start today. He came off the bench, played for about 20 minutes. So it's a bit harsh to say he's an under 21 academy player. That is for me very harsh to say it like that. You basically just degraded him and saying he's a youth player. So for me, I don't quite agree with that. Oz and say here we go, the word slander. It ain't slander, Oz. It's critical analysis. To describe him as an under 21 player, that's not critical analysis. That's slander in my eyes. But as I've always said to you guys, you're entitled to your opinion. I think we have to be a bit more patient with Verts. You have to look into the situation, the type of player he is. But then some will counter and say, well, look at Ekatike. He's hit the ground running. But I've always felt like with players like Ekatike, they're a bit more sort of in terms of his skill that he's a bit more of a natural fit for the Premier League because of his build, his in terms of his stature and the way he plays. Even when he played for Frankfurt, he was always a step ahead of the other players around him, just because he's very sharp in terms of receiving the ball. His hold-up play is very good. That's something Wirtz needs to learn. Wirtz is not a number 9, so that's not his style of playing. He's more of a pass and move type of player. But there will be moments where he needs to hold the ball and lay it off. So that's something he needs to get to grips with because in the Bundesliga of whenever he's played for Germany, he's always had 2 moves in his mind, ahead of what's actually happened. So, when you've got a player that who's already made his move in his mind before he receives the ball, you know, he needs to be a quicker sort of thinker now, in my opinion, where when he receives that ball, he needs to have done that. He needs to lay it off before he's even thought about that next move, if that makes sense. So for me, he just needs a bit more sharper in terms of holding onto the ball and releasing it quicker than normal. But I think it'll come in due course. It's just a matter of time, just getting used to the way we play, used to the league, and then we'll see it, I think, in more consistent basis going forward. He also is afraid to shoot. He keeps looking to pass. Why? I didn't see that today, to be fair. When he was given that through ball today, and he made that defender. I'm not sure who the defender was, but made him slide to the ground and was about to hit a shot. Then he got blocked. But I don't think he was looking for a pass there because that was the only real contribution that I remember Verts doing today. I think that touch when he cut it inside was just too heavy, and that's what it led to. That shot getting blocked. But I don't think he's that type of player where he looks for the pass. I feel like he's just trying to find, the right passes in right moments, and it's just not clicking because he's not reactive enough right now. So that's how I'm assessing Florian Wirtz's performance right now. But I think it will improve in the coming games. I was saying, yo, Ozzy, I think Paris will be where we finally begin to click on all cylinders. I'd say we're playing at only 66% capacity right now. Yeah, I don't want to see that number 66% there, but I see what you've done there. But in terms of the Palace fixture, let me see how far is the Palace fixture. Um, because I think it will take a bit of time. But look, it's not a problem the way I'm seeing it because we're winning games. That's what counts, right? Of course, you want to win games in style, but if we were losing and we were not gaining points, then I would be, quite concerned with the impact of our new signings because then the argument will be, well, look, we've sold Nunes, Diaz, all these players, Elliot, and we've gone down one step. That's how I would look at it. But right now, we're playing at, I would say 60%, not 66%, as Ozan said. Um, and we've got a lot more room to grow. So for me, once it really clicks, that should be a worrying sign for our opponents and our competition because we're not playing our best football, but we're still winning games. We're finding ways to win games. Despite what some fans will tell you that it's luck. For me, sometimes you have to make your own luck, and it comes from moments of quality, and that's what we possess in our squad. So for me, Liverpool are doing everything right now. I'm not saying we're playing great. I don't think we have played that great this season so far. Today, I thought we were very strong in the first half, kind of fizzled out in the second, but I think we will try and improve as the game goes on. Just got a few more comments there before we do the player rating. Delusive says, not a problem, bro. We're not dominating games like we should. I agree, we're not dominating games like we should. I think the way we play or have played this season is quite different to the way we would start games last season. Last season, we would be very sort of calm and composed in the opening 10, 15 minutes. This time around, we're a bit more aggressive. So maybe we're adapting to new tactics because Arsenal has better quality players now, in my opinion. So because of that, he wants to try and do some tactical tweaks where we're a bit more aggressive in the front foot and we're playing bit more attacking football because I think that was the criticism last year from some fans where they thought we played average football. When I say average football, like it wasn't champagne football, it wasn't heavy metal football like we, envisioned under Jurgen Klopp. No, it's slightly different. It's a bit more calm, a bit more collected in terms of how we play. So I think he's trying to find that mix where it is calm and composed, but at the same time, on the front foot, we are very aggressive and are very attractive in terms of the way we play. So we're just trying to find that balance right now. But I've seen enough to say to suggest that it will happen. We just have to be patient as football fans. It can be a bit more of a modern day sort of fans point of view where we're impatient. We want everything happen very quickly. Uh, that's not how it works. Sometimes you gotta let time do its thing. You gotta let players gel, learn each other's traits, and then once it clicks, I feel like we're going to see that, especially as the season goes on. So for me, I have no concerns, but I think some fans do at this stage right now. Delusi said, when we get a run of bad luck, then what would you say then? Well, I'll have that opinion once that run happens. At the minute, we're on a good run. 5 wins out of 5. Of course, if we start to drop points and we're losing, then you have to be critical on a game-to-game basis. Right now, if you're looking in the bigger picture, we haven't lost so far. We haven't even drawn, so we've won all our games. So you have to look at the positive, I would say, in that regards. But once if there's slight cracks that are, being presented in the squad, then of course, I'm definitely going to assess it and present it to you guys. But right now, I can only talk about what's happened so far, and it's 5 wins out of 5. So that is how I'm looking at it. I'm not saying we're playing beautiful football, we're playing our best football. I think we are just taking it game by game because remember we've got a lot of new players that have come through the door. Isak's pretty much just played his second game today, so he's going to take a bit of time to get used to the way we play. So we'll see what happens, but I'm confident that the team will improve. I'm confident the team will play better football, and for me, they will be playing a brand of football that should appease most of our fans. But you know, in life, can't please everyone. So that might be the kind of sentiment, I guess, on this occasion here. But for me, I would rather play this way and then win all the trophies. Honestly, you want to play good football, of course you do, but for me, results are what matters. Right now we're 6 points ahead of Arsenal right now. And I know Arsenal still have a game to play, but we're already adding distance to our competitors right now. So for me, that's the most important thing going forward. Deluxe Steve says, bro, we're not doing everything right. We keep conceding goals. That is a concern. Like even today's goal, for example, I don't even quite know who to pinpoint as to blame because everything can't be blamed, right? But in terms of Conor Bradley, I thought he was doing really well against Grealish, but in that moment, Grealish just, went past him on the outside. Great touch there, hit a fantastic left foot cross, and then Jai, laid it off, and yeah, and then Idrissa Gueye shot it. Some will say Alisson may have done better. I don't think so. I think it was hit with real power. So go give the attacker the advantage or the benefit of the doubt there. Um, but yeah, it is a concern. I'm not going to say it's not a concern. I think when we were conceding goals, we were it was down to more individual errors, in my opinion. Kanate was quite awful in the opening couple of games. Perkins was erratic. I thought both of the players improved today. So individually, I think the team are improving, but got to be a bit more better as a collective, a bit more compact, and making sure we defend as a unit as well. So also maybe a little point, nothing huge, but with the injuries of Frimpong and Bradley, we've had a bit more of a unstable backline because the right side we've had to use Bradley when Frimpong's not been available. Sobozlai's been a makeshift right back for the last couple of games as well. So, bit of like moving around in terms of, certain players playing in different makeshift positions. So that may have, disrupted a little bit of our stability as a unit. So but for me, it also shows you quality in our squad that players can play out of position and still produce, 10 out of 10 performances, which Sabozla has done in recent weeks. So for me, I don't really see a negative in that. But I do agree the defending is a bit of a concern. But at the same time, I feel like as long as we're producing chances and converting those as well, the goals will help us win games. But going forward, yes, we do need to improve from a defensive point of view. Other comments is Steve really Stewart's in disguise. Um, and Ozan said Mark Gay just got lucky in it. I've said Mark. I've referred to Idrissa Gay as Mark Gay at least 4 times today. So yeah, it will probably happen again at some point. But yeah, he got lucky in the end. So let's do the player ratings and feel free to let me know your scores for each player as well. So we'll start with the goalkeeper. Allison, I actually thought Allison had a very solid game today in terms of how he played. Um, the save, I don't think the goal in terms of what Mark Gay or Idrissa Gay, how you want to call him, scored today. uh, I don't think that's to blame Allison. I think that's quite harsh if we put the finger on Allison, in my opinion. So no, I don't think he's at fault for that. But overall, I thought he was solid. Made some good punches from set pieces and corner kicks. Was dominant inside the box. Produced a couple of first time uh, passes. Trying to lead to counter attacks. So I thought he had a solid game today. So for me, I'm going to give Allison. I'm gonna give Allison a 7. I think a solid 7 is justified. I don't think he made any errors or any mistakes. So I don't think he deserves anything lower. Uh Delusive's gone for 2. I think that's very harsh. 2 out of 10 for Allison. I don't think that's correct. I don't know why. I'm assuming you're thinking he's at fault for the goal, maybe. Ozan's gone for 6 for Ali, which is fair enough as well. Uh, in terms of Conor Bradley, I actually thought Conor Bradley did really well today. For large parts of the game, he pretty much frustrated Jack Grealish. Jack Grealish got away from him at times, but didn't really produce any end product. So it's all good and well going past your defender, but if you're having to pass back to your fullback or a midfielder that's coming towards you, rather than hitting a cross inside the danger zone, then for me, the fullback has done their job. So I feel he was very, very solid today. Of course, the goal, maybe he could have been a bit more tight in his marking, but I'm going to give the attacker the advantage there. And I thought he produced a good moment for his team. So for me, a solid performance from Conor Bradley. So I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10. See a comment here from Delusive saying 5. Grealish had him in his pocket all game. I don't know. I think it's a bit harsh, guys. Um, Grealish didn't really produce many moments that opened the door, in my opinion. So I thought Conor Bradley was quite good, to be fair. Ozan's gone for six. Okay, that's fair enough. Maybe I'm being a bit too trigger happy and giving everyone a bit of a high score today. In terms of Kanate, decent performance. I wouldn't quite call it a solid performance from Kanate. There were a lot of moments where I didn't feel confident with him on the ball, gave away a lot of passes during the game, struggled against Beto, if I'm being honest with you, lost out on a couple of aerial duels with him. The player that came on, Fino Barry, did a little bit better with him, but not in a large manner, in my opinion. So for me, um, a better performance in recent weeks, but at the same time, it isn't very hard to do because he's such a good player and we've seen it over the years. So for Ibu Konate, I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10. I don't think he was better than Conor Bradley, but I thought he had a decent game nonetheless. Uh, and I see Ozen also going for 7, so a big up to Ozen. Uh, Toulouse has gone for 8 for Kanate. Okay, that's a very strong rating for a player who I didn't think he was at his best, but fair enough. Now, in terms of Virgil, I thought Virgil was fantastic. I thought he was very, very dominant on and off the ball. I did like the shithousery where he was pushing Tarkovsky quite a bit because we're used to seeing Tarkovsky do that to our players. So that was a nice little sight for us there. But I thought he was very good in terms of defensively, very good in his distribution. Um, so no, overall, solid performance from our captain. So I'm going for a 9 out of 10. I thought he was really good. I didn't really see him making any mistakes at all. He controlled our defense. There were times where Konate, I felt like wasn't quite aligned with the defense, but there was that one moment in the first half where Beto was through on goal. Konate makes a block, but it's because Konate wasn't in line with the defense, so he had to, make up for that mistake there. But no, in terms of Virgil, I thought he kept everything in shape, helped out Kirkers on that left hand side, who has been erratic at times recently. So for me, very, very solid performance from Virgil van Dijk. I see a few comments here as well. Uh, Ozan saying Virgil commanded the line 9 out of 10. Uh, did you see say he almost cost us an equalizer in some time? He did, which is probably why I haven't given him a higher score. Even though 9 is very high, but I don't think he made any other error but that moment. Um, Yeah, it wasn't, the best of moments because we had about, I think, 10, 15 seconds left. So, but in the end, we made the clearance and we got the win in the end. So you've dropped him down to 7 because of that moment. So in your eyes, you think Konate had the better game than Virgil, which is fair enough. I don't think that is the case for me. I think Virgil van Dijk was a much better performer than Konate today. Mm. And speaking of a much better performer, I thought Kirkers was really good today. Defensively, really, really sharp. What impressed me today was his more all-round game, where he was producing quick passes, especially with him and McAllister on that left-hand side, um, bombing down that left-hand side. I feel like there's still a bit of work to do with Kirkers and Gakpo because there was a lot of times where Kirkers made runs, and then Gakpo just didn't really. There was one moment, especially in the second half, where you literally had Kirkes on the byline, Gakpo a bit more inside, closer to the area. Kirkes passes to him, and then Gakpo does some sort of move where he's gone in circles, and then rather than laying off to Kirkus, who's making a great run and would have had the opportunity to hit a low cross, they've literally just swapped positions. And then the move was pretty much killed at that moment. So that's something, the two players will need to, continue to train and form and bond that a relationship on that left hand side. But for me, he was very, very good today. Made some good blocks as well, good passing, made some good strides in that final third. So for me, a very, very solid performance from Kirkes. So I'm giving him an 8 out of 10. Um, I see a comment here from Ozan, who's pretty much in line with me as well. He's saying this was his best performance in a red shirt, 8 out of 10. I'd probably rival it with the performance against Arsenal. I thought he was really good against Arsenal as well. So um, that's a tie for me. I feel like maybe I'd edge it and say the Arsenal performance was a little bit better just because of the opponent. But yeah, those two performances, if he continues to play at that level, he will be, producing the Bournemouth Kirk's performances that we saw last season. I feel like he's very young. He's trying to impress. He's doing too much too soon right now. Just needs to calm down a little bit, take a bit of a tone it down in terms of his enthusiasm and being a little bit less aggressive. And then those performances will come good as long as he's committed and he's listening to the coaches and doing what's been told as part of the game plan. He will do fine going forward. So for me, good solid performance there from Kirkes. Drew Steve has gone for a 6 for Kirkes there. Now, in terms of Gravenberch, what can I say? What a fantastic performance again from the Dutchman. He's been in scintillating form in the last 2, 3 games, but today, we're renowned to see his defensive dominance, since last season. But today, he was dominant defensively. Made some good tackles and made some crucial blocks, and passing was good as well. But it was the moments in the final third that for me captured his performance today. Almost a masterclass performance from him, where he's a bit more in an advanced position, finds himself, hitting a half volley, which the more you watch, the better it looks as well. So I'm definitely watching that on replay later on today. Beautifully executed shot because those type of shots, most players, and I'm not even going to talk about strikers, most players in general would have levered and it would have gone above the bar or maybe ballooned it outside of the stand. In that moment, you have to have the right technique. So he pretty much hit it, in between his ankle and the upper part of his foot. So he kind of like cushioned it in between. And because if you watch the replay, he jumps as he hits that shot. Because of that jump, the ball isn't ballooned. If he was, standing on one leg, then he may have like hit it over the bar. So because of that technique, it was hit to perfection. So what a strike that was. And then the second goal as well came down to his assist. Lovely and perfectly weighted through ball to Hugo Ekitike, and who produced a fantastic finish as well. So for me, a goal and assist and a dominant performance in midfield as well. I don't think it's short than a man of the match kind of level performance. So I'm giving him a 10 out of 10. Um, and yeah, unless I give someone else a 10 out of 10, he's clearly the man of the match. Ozan Kabak is on the same wavelength as me. He's given him a man of the match with a 10 score, and Deleuze Steve has given an 8 out of 10 for Gravenberch. McAllister, for me, a decent performance, not quite in tune with the team, not playing to his ability that you've gotten used to over the last season. But he's slowly getting there. I will say that I feel like it was a better and a more improved performance from Mac 10. His passing was a bit sharper today. There was a couple of moments where he really got involved in physical battles. So I was more impressed with his performance today. I don't think it was an outstanding performance, but it was definitely in the right direction. And of course, he played a part in that second goal with the 1-2 with Szoboszlai. So for today's performance, I'm going to give McAllister a 7 out of 10. That's going to be my rating for Mac 10 there. And speaking of 10, let's switch over to Szoboszlai. For me, um, oh, sorry, I've got a couple comments here. So Ozan's going for a 6 for McAllister. He didn't really influence the game. He didn't, but I felt he definitely improved from his previous performances. So maybe I'm going to be excited with the 7. But I feel like he showcased a better performance than what I've seen. And I feel like, he's in that right trajectory of getting better as the game goes on. So I thought he had a decent output today in midfield. Anthony Stoop has gone for a 5 out of 10. So Bosla for me, fantastic today. Really, really good. the engine, and the energy that he possesses. It's a cheat code because a lot of players don't have that kind of player in their team. Um, and also, what makes it great that he's so tactically astute as well. Where on paper we know he's playing as a number 10, but he's roaming around playing in different positions and he's adapting to different roles. Sometimes he's dropping deeper. There were moments where Gravenberch was ahead of him or McAllister, and then he's had to drop deep. So, because he's played in different roles, I feel like it's enhanced his understanding of the game and he's become more of an all-round and more complete player because of those experiences. So, for me, that's going to continue. And I feel like this is going to be the season where we really see Subozai evolve as that complete midfielder in a Liverpool shirt this season. So for me, a very, very solid performance from Sobozlai. So for me, I'm going to give Sobozlai an 8 out of 10 for his performance. Just going to go through the chat. Uh, Sobozlai is the engine of the squad. He certainly is, Ozan. 8 out of 10, just like his shirt number. Definitely agree with that. And then Tunu Steve has given Sobozlai a 7 because he can play good in two positions. Is that based on today's performance? That seems like a more of a generic analysis. He didn't play in multiple positions today. He pretty much played in midfield. I'm not really thinking about his past performances as a right back, but in terms of today's performances, I thought he was really good. So yeah, I'm not sure into the alignment of the two positions, but I'm not categorizing players or what they've done so far. I'm pretty much critiquing him on today's game only. In terms of Mohamed Salah, I believe it was a better performance from Salah. I feel like he was more involved in the team today in terms of the build up, the passing, finding himself in more goal scoring opportunities. Um, didn't have clear cut chances. He had that one shot in the first half where on the literally the ball just went to ground and then instinctively had that shot, just went over the bar. Then he had that moment where Gakpo passed it to him, laid it off, and for me produced a nice sort of shot into the bottom corner, but unfortunately not enough power in the end. But I thought he was um, much better than in previous performances, and I thought he was a solid performer today. So with that said, I'm going to give him a 7.5 out of 10. That's my rating for the Egyptian King. Let's see if we have any comments here. Let me see. I was gonna say if Mo didn't get the assist, I would give him 6, but he's a 7 today. Average performance yet again from Salah 6. Okay, fair enough. I thought he was much better in comparison to other games. I feel like in other games he's been MIA, but today he was actually involved. Like he was taking on the fullback. Mikolenko was average today, and normally Mikolenko performs really well against Salah. So yeah, I thought he had him in his pocket, and I feel like Salah definitely showed a better account of himself today. But everyone's entitled to their score there. Now, in terms of Gakpo, um, I was quite disappointed with Gakpo today. There were a lot of moments in the game where he was very, very predictable, and so much so that the Everton players knew what to do. They made a lot of blocks. He didn't really have a shot on target today. So for me, he needs to change his game a little bit, be less predictable. Because when he comes on the left, he's doing the same move, cuts in, tries to take a shot, got to go on the outside as well, just like it has been in terms of Jack Grealish. Look at the player on the other side. He's predominantly a right foot player, but he's shown variation in his game. So that's something Gakpo needs to add to his game in order to hit that next level. Because right now he's far too predictable, and I know he can do better because we've seen it in the past where he has taken players on the outside, but maybe he's not as confident, or maybe the dynamics of Turkers hasn't quite clicked yet. Um, but when you've got a fullback like Kirkers, I feel like it needs to click sooner rather than later because Kirkers is more than capable of playing on the outside and the inside as well. So they should be able to form a good partnership. So maybe it's just something in the works, but till today, not a good performance from Gakpo as well. Very, very average, if I'm being honest with you. So for me, seems a bit harsh in terms of what I've rated everyone else. I'm going to give him a 5 out of 10. I thought he was really, really poor today. I wasn't surprised that he was substituted very early on. Ozan has gone for five as well. I don't think it's hate to. I don't think you should feel like you hate to admit it. It's facts. He was really, really poor today. Um, Ekatike. Oh, sorry, we've got a comment here from Lucy who says three. I'm not mad at that. He was quite poor today, so that's probably justified. Now, in terms of Ekatike, I thought he was really good today. Um, was really busy. Tried to make things happen. Drifted to the left at times as well. But the goal that he scored, the way he took that finish, I thought he did really well. So for me, very very solid performance from Hugo Ekitike. So for his rating, I'm going to give the Frenchman. I'm going to give him an 8.5 out of 10. That's my rating for Hugo Ekitike. So that is my rating for the starting lineup. So no real secret in terms of who my man of the match will be. So let's quickly just put a star on his name. And that, of course, is going to be Ryan Gravenberch. So he is my man of the match. Feel free to drop a comment. I know Ozan's already revealed his man of the match. Julius Steve who else is watching, feel free to drop your comment and let me know who your man of the match is today. Ozan said Hugo was always dropping deep to get involved. 8. That's actually, a part of his game where he likes to drop deep and, be the link up between the midfield and attack. So I don't think that's the negative thing, but I think you're looking at where maybe he was doing a bit too much, which is fair enough. But for me, um, I feel like in some games you have to kind of, present that kind of skill set just because, we're playing against a very low block team. So to get involved, you sometimes have to drop deep. Um, Delusive says because he scored 7. I'm not gonna lie, Steve. I think you're being a bit harsh with your ratings today. Man of the match was Ibu. Wow. Okay. I wasn't expecting Ibu. Ozan come back is laughing. He wasn't expecting Ibu as well. Um, but this is a very fair comment here from Ozan saying just shows different people view the game differently, Ozzy. And that is entirely true. And that's why what is one of the reasons why I've created this football channel because I like to have these interesting debates with people. Just because I've had a difference of opinion with you guys, in terms of my scores, doesn't mean, you know, we're right or wrong. Everyone has a perception of the game. So, if that's how you see it, that's how you see it. But I always find it interesting to have seen other people's point of views, especially if it's different to mine. So, yeah, it's just how people see the game. So, yeah, big up to you guys for your contribution with the player ratings. Um, let's talk about the subs because we didn't make too many substitutions today. We made 3 in total. So, we have Connie Gakpo coming off. For who did he come off for? Florian Wirtz took his place, so let's bring him on. And then we also had Jones replacing McAllister. And Isak coming on for Ekitike as well. So here we go. Isak coming on as well. So let's start with. Oh, hold on a second. We've just got a comment here from. I was gonna come back slot rating. Do you know what? I don't normally do the manager rating, but maybe I'll start doing that as a thing now. Uh, let me see what you've written first. I respect because you presented the idea now. I think you got the design lineup right. Slot a solid 8. And Lucy says slot has to start executing that together. I don't care. In terms of slots rating today, I think 8 is a fair score to be fair with you, Ozan, because when I did my match preview yesterday, I had Frimpong and Robertson as a fullbacks. I'm looking at in hindsight, I think those were the right choices to have Bradley and Kirkes because I think with Njai the way he played, Robertson may have struggled because he's a very direct winger, quick, in that sort of that half yard sort of turn there. I think he would have definitely struggled. So Kirkes was literally on par, in terms of pace, but also defending. He did really, really well. And Bradley, I think he enjoyed that battle with Grealish. Frimpong would have had a different approach. He would have been more forward thinking rather than making sure lock it down in terms of making sure Grealish doesn't have an influence in the game. So I think those two positions, I think Slot made the right call to start those two. Um, it would have been a big call for him to drop Verts for this one because we're seeing gradual improvements from him. But I think this game maybe it made the most sense because let's not kid ourselves. There's no way Szoboszlai's getting dropped. So if someone had to make way, it possibly would have been Verts. But arguably, and I'm not just saying it because people think I'm part of the Verts army here or whatnot, but I think Gakpo has been below par, so I may would have gone for Gakpo to have been dropped instead of Verts. But I think Gakpo has cleared in the bank in that position, so in this situation, it was probably right to do that. But um, but yeah, and I think it was the right decision to start Ekatike. Isak isn't quite there yet. Um, so you have to look at face value, how the players are performing, are they fully fit, have things clicked. So those are the checklist that you have to look with these games coming up. And we've played 3 games in 7 days, so there's been a lot of turnaround, and there's more games to come next week. We've got Carabao Cup tie next week on, I believe it's Tuesday, isn't it? So we don't even have that many days to rest. So that's going to happen, and that's going to occur as the season goes on. We're only in September, and the games are coming thick and fast right now. So it's good that we've got a very highly quality squad, in my opinion, where if Eke doesn't start and Isak's there, those two players are of great quality, and that's a good headache to have as a coach. So for me, it's good in terms of us being able to rotate players and not have a very strong opinion in terms of, oh, he's terrible, why is he starting? Because I feel like we have good players for each role in our squad. So for me, it's a very positive um, mark for us going forward. Uh, yes, I agree. Stalini seems that Slot has to start Ekatike and Isak together. I don't care. It will happen in due course, but I think it's a bit too soon to start them together. But it'll be interesting to see, how they are presenting the team because the way Ekatike has played so far in the Liverpool shirt, you know, he's just very much suited in that central role. So it's going to be interesting in terms of dynamic. Maybe Isak plays on the left hand side. Who knows? Because he does play that role for Sweden. So well, let's see. It's going to be interesting in terms of the dynamics. And Ekitike had a interview after the game, and he did say that he looks forward to playing with him or playing together on the pitch. So it's definitely something on the cards. But I think right now it's a little bit too soon to play both of them in the same lineup. You've gone for a 6 for Slot, okay. The big money signs have to start, man. They do, but remember, we haven't just signed him for the next 2 3 weeks. We've signed him for the next 5 6 years. So we have to let them get used to the way we play. But look, in terms of Isak, he hasn't had preseason. Let's be honest. We've covered his story throughout the whole summer. He hasn't played many competitive games at all. So we have to, give him the benefit of the doubt there. Uh, Ekitike has done really well, started in very well. Kerkez, due to his age, I think he's been a bit erratic, a bit all over the place. But having said that, since the Arsenal game, I think he has improved very, very well. And then you got Frimpong, who started the season really well, and even his last couple of cameos, he's actually had an impact on the team. So for me, we're heading in the right direction. I don't know, maybe I'm a ultra positive fan. I'm seeing the good in what Liverpool are producing right now. Don't get me wrong, there is a lot of room of improvement that needs to be done for us to be that complete team, but it will come in due time, in my opinion. Uh, got a couple of comments here from Ozzie saying Curtis did really well when he came on Ozzie. He tried to keep the ball and recycle it. We'll speak about him very, very shortly. So let's start with the first sub. And that was Florian Wirtz. I thought he was very quiet when he came on, to be honest with you. There were only a couple of moments where he threaded through balls to Isak, and I think Salah was the other one. He had that one moment where he was inside the box, tried to cut in and then have a left footed shot, but just took too long. And I think that touch was just had too much spin or zip on it. So yeah, it should have been a bit more, smarter in that moment there. But I thought he was very quiet. Didn't really have an influence in the team as such from that left hand side. So he does need to, improve and knuckle up a little bit more. So for me, I'm going to give Florian Wirtz. Where is he? I'm going to give him a 5 out of 10. I don't think he was great. I think he was very average when he came on. Now, in terms of Jones, I thought Jones was very, very good when he came on. When Maka came off, I feel like there was definitely a shift in the way we played. Uh, Jones made a lot of interceptions, but he also produced the right passes to create counter attacks. So for me, he was very much, a creative spark in the middle of our midfield in the end. So I thought Jones was very, very solid today. So for Jones, I'm going to give him. What am I going to give Jones? I'll give Jones a 7 out of 10. I thought he was really solid when he came on. And the final player is Isak. Yeah, Isak didn't really have much involvement. Did a few couple layoffs here and there, um, but I didn't think he had too much to do. There were quite a few through balls that were given to him, and it was pretty much away from goal rather than towards goal, which didn't really help him out. So I'm going to give Isak a 6. I think it might be a bit harsh. I'm giving Wirtz a 5, but I thought he was a bit better, but very slightly, marginally, in that sense. So uh, let's have a look at the ratings. We've got a few more comments here. Yeah, so Ozan comments, he tried to keep the ball and recycle it. I agree. Jones was late to the second ball. Ozan, what were you watching? I don't agree with that, to be fair. I thought Jones was very good with interceptions. He was the one that was trying to make things happen. So different of opinions there, but I thought Jones was really good. I think you're talking about Macca, Steve, not Kurt. Yeah, I thought Jones had a more positive impact in comparison to Maka. Ozan saying 5 for Verts as well. Drew Stevens has given a 3 to Verts, frustrating player. Yeah, he was frustrating today. He was very quiet. He wasn't involved as much, so I wouldn't really give him too much going forward. Um, Jones gets a 7 for his rating, so yeah, same as mine. Isak don't get a rating. He came on too late. He didn't come on that late. He had about 20 minutes to play, didn't he? Let me just double check the minutes. I don't think he came on for like 2 minutes or anything like that. Let's have a look. When did he come on? He came on the 67th minute. He had over 25 minutes. He had 23 plus stoppage time. So we had 3 minutes. So 26 minutes. So I think you can rate a player if they've been on the pitch for 26 minutes. Real McCoy says Slot going to make Gakpo cost Liverpool. Gakpo gets a 0. Uh, fair enough, Real McCoy. 3 for Verts. Yeah. In terms of Verts, I understand Gakpo is 0. I think it's a bit harsh. But look, there is an argument where Gakpo has to do better because he's not showing his true form. Unfortunately, there's been times where Rio's come off the bench and he's looked more impactful. So he's got to switch it up a little bit, show a bit more variation play because he's far too predictable. And that when that happens, it really starts the way we play, and you're losing momentum in your attack. So for me, that needs to improve a lot more. So yeah, I think he needs to do a lot more in the coming games. Um, Delusive saying Isak 4 then, and Jones 4. Okay, I thought Jones was really good today, personally. So you said I have Gakpo at 3 and Oz called me harsh. I thought it was harsh to be fair. No, but I didn't say it was I just when you said Gakpo, I said harsh, but I get it because I gave him a 5, didn't I? So um no, I didn't even say I don't think I say even negatively to you when you said that. Um like 0 is harsh. That's what I'm referring to. Can't give a man 0. The guy, you gotta get, when you used to do exams back in the day, you write your name, you get a point for it. Like the guy played, he stepped on the pitch, so you gotta give him a point for that. 0's harsh. 3, not so harsh because for me, um, when you give someone a 0, they didn't do anything. I wouldn't say he didn't do anything. I gave him a 5, you gave him a 3, so I feel like it's the middle ground there. Um, but yeah, a tad bit there, tad bit harsh there. I think 0 is a bit harsh, but yeah, that's just my point there. Um, and I think that's all the subs there. So not many substitutions today, but um, some are more critical than me. I was, yeah, no, look, it's fair. It's fair. Maybe because I'm looking at it in a slightly different way. Where I'm not trying to just. If someone's been really bad, you are going to see me give, ones, twos, and threes. But in today's performance, I don't think anyone was really bad. And also, I always put into context when substitutes come on, they're only given a small sort of a benchmark to have an impact on the game. So, if they've come on and scored, then you got to give them the high praise because they've impacted the game. Um, but if they've come on and produced stinkers where they've, produced what's his name? Aspas type corner kicks and all that, then I had to drop it down, right? But Verts for me was just very quiet. He did have opportunities where he produced some decent forward passes, but for me, wasn't really involved more than that as well. So in terms of Isak, maybe because I'll probably give him the benefit of that he had less minutes than the others. Um, but you can see he was trying, he was making good runs. I just don't feel like it's quite connected with the player. So that's why I've given him a 6. Maybe it's a bit too high, fair enough, but he's Isak, so I'm gonna give him a bit more of a leeway at the minute. Real McCoy said, before the league started, I told you Gakpo is in the start, he's a bench player and you dismissed me. But then who do we start ahead of him? Um Delu Steve knows who I wanted in the summer. So who would you start in our current team? Because I'm looking at this current situation. So when I dismissed you, I probably just looked at where I don't know if we still had Diaz at the time because I think if Diaz was still at the club, hands down Diaz is ahead of him. I've always said that. But I looked at the picture in terms of we've got Gakpo, we've got Rio. It's too soon to put Rio in the starting lineup. That's my thing there. Maybe as time goes on and maybe players click a bit more, maybe we see Isak or Ekitike. Probably not Isak. I don't feel like you could buy a number 9 and put him on the left, but maybe Ekitike plays on that left hand side, even though it's not really his position. Uh, Verts is an argument, but then Verts hasn't adapted right now either. So I don't think we really have a standout player um, before or ahead of Cody Gakpo. And I know he's not doing well. But that's probably why I said in the summer we need to sign a left winger because Gakpo needs that competition. So when we were linked with the likes of Rodrigo, Barcola, and those type of players, I was all for it because we need competition on that left hand side. So who knows? Maybe that is addressed in the January window because if Gakpo continues this way, it does really affect the team going forward. But it's going to be interesting. Look, maybe a bit of a wild take, but if he continues to play at this level and let's say Verts improves playing in his current position, maybe Szoboszlai plays on the left wing. And I don't even think that's even a crazy shout because Szoboszlai has played on the left wing for a number of games, especially under Red Bull Leipzig. Maybe we need to find a bit of a different solution there. So Chiesa is an option, Chiesa, you know, I don't think Arsenal has enough faith in him to start him in every game, but could be an option. So um, I probably dismissed it because we probably had Diaz at the time. But if this was, you know, after Diaz, then yeah, maybe it's because I looked at our squad and thought we don't really have anyone there. So yeah, let's see. Hopefully, Gakpo does improve going forward. Gakpo is working against us. Oz, what you mean today? I wouldn't say he was working against us. He just had a stinker. So that's how I would label it. Before the leagues, this is rumor code. Before the league started, I told you Gakpo isn't a star. He's a bench player, and you dismissed me. No, but then who starts ahead of him? That's my point. That's my argument there. Like, who would you start ahead of Gakpo? You have to look at what you have in your squad. I don't think there's a better left winger in our squad than Gakpo because Gakpo is probably the only recognized left winger currently. Of course, you have Rio, but Rio is a youth player, so let's not push him too far in. But having said that, if Rio produces stronger performances in the coming months, why not? But I've said it in my mind that I feel like we need to just slowly embed him to the team. And once, we've hit mid-season, that's when we really unleash him, especially if we feel like, he's having an impact in the team. But look, we've got Southampton coming up. I'm expecting him to start. And if he does well in that game, then we can definitely expect Rio to get more starts. He might his sort of programmed to slowly get into the first team might be fast tracked because of his performances and because of Gakpo's lack of performance. So yeah, that's how I'm looking at it, to be fair. Gakpo shit was it's only 5 games in, guys. Come on. We can't be too harsh. You've gone for Rio, which I think is a bit premature right now, but in the long term, could be an argument to be fair, could be a conversation. Did you say, oh my day, we went 57 minutes before Oz mentioned Bradley Barcola. Hey, you mentioned the name. I didn't even say the name. I just said that Steve is going to know who I'm going to mention. But yeah, had to had to come to to the table or discussion at some point. Rumor course that Gakpo doesn't use the overlap of Kirkes. I agree. He did that a lot today, and I find it so frustrating. And that's something that I mentioned earlier on. They need to work on this in training because it's not going to work. It's not going to click. So Gakpo, I feel like for that, and even you mentioned Rio as well. But the thing is, Rio is a player that likes to be on the outside. So I feel like the perfect kind of left side player needs to be someone that likes to come as an inside forward that allows Kirkes to overlap continuously. So we need that type of left winger. Um, I don't think Rio is that guy, and I don't know if Gakpo is that guy. I think Gakpo can play that level, but he hasn't formed that understanding with Kirkes because he's a new player in the squad. So you know, it's all about partnerships. Look at from years back, we had Roberts and Mane. They probably had the best partnership on the left hand side that I've probably ever seen in Liverpool shirt. So, these things take time to, build those kind of relationships. So hopefully, it does improve as time goes on. Uh, Play Verts on the wing. Yeah, it's an option, but I'm not sure. I think he needs to play in his best position, which is the number 10 role. Real McCoy said Real is way better than Gakpo. I think that's too premature to say at this stage. To say even Ekitike can play left wing with Isak central, then they can switch depending on the defense. That's something that I've said in the past as well. I think that's how it would work. I don't see Ekitike being an orthodox left winger. If it was Ekitike and Isak in our team, it would be the same dynamics as last season where we had Gakpo and Diaz interchanging during the games. I think that's what will work. So for me, um, I would like to see that going forward. So hopefully, it is something that happens. I don't think it will happen every game, but it will be depending on our opponents, or like you mentioned, depending on the defense that we're facing. So yeah, I definitely agree with that one. Stop talking about Rio is too young. Come on, man. He's 17. He's just turned 17. Um, but I'm not saying he's not gonna have any involvement in our team. I just feel like we have to be a bit more patient, allow him to develop in the under 23s right now. And I think the perfect time to literally put him in that first team fold is from January onwards, or even December onwards, when Mohamed Salah goes to AFCON, because then we need an extra attacker in our squad. And I feel like that's the time for Rio to make his name. And if he does, he has every right to stay in the team. I wouldn't have any arguments. If the player is producing the goods, and I'm not doubting Rio's quality by a stretch of the imagination. I rate Rio very, very highly. But I just want us to be a bit more careful. I don't want us to put a young player in the limelight so soon because it can be disruptive to their development and it could hinder their progress going forward as well. So we just got to be a bit more smart, a bit more calculated in terms of how we embed these young players going forward. Uh, Rumor said I wanted Fofana instead of Gakpo. I'll be honest with you, Fofana wouldn't be ahead of Gakpo. I think Fofana has potential, but I don't think he has better end product than Gakpo. Because Gakpo for me gets the number. So yeah, so that's what I was saying in regards to that. Pele won the World Cup at 17. Pele is one of the best forwards of all time. Come on now. Let's not do these silly arguments. Real will come good. He will, but we have to be patient. That's what I will say in regards to his inclusion to the team. Do you say if you're good enough? Yeah, but I'm not saying he's not good enough. I'm just saying it's too soon to add in. If you're old enough, yeah, I get it. I get what you're saying, guys. But for me, I'm saying it's too soon to put him in the team week in, week out. I don't mind both players being rotated based on who we play. Like the Southampton game, I'm expecting Rio to start. So if he's producing good performances against these type of oppositions, then he has every right to stake a claim. What if he has a stinker against Southampton? Then also will say maybe it's too soon. Let us calm down. Anything doesn't need to be done like it's now or never. He's 70. He's got a long career ahead of him. So let's not burn him out. There's been a lot of players that have probably been burnt out over the years. And one player that people have actually compared him to is Raheem Sterling. I think we burnt out Raheem Sterling when he came through the ranks because we had a terrible team under Brendan Rodgers. And because of that, it may have impacted his longevity in the game. Right now, where is he at Chelsea, playing with the youth players? He's been linked with a move to Celtic to rejoin Brendan Rodgers in Scotland. So, you've got to be very careful in terms of how you manage. Of course, with the technology nowadays, in terms of, science, technology, and, all that sort of stuff, they should be able to manage to play a bit better. But I think Rio will have a very heavy involvement in the second half of the season. That's my opinion there. But let's see. Real McCoy said Chiesa a way better player than Gakpo. I'll be honest with you, Real McCoy. I wouldn't even disagree with you. I actually agree with you on that part. I just don't know what it is with Arne Slot. He just doesn't seem to favor the player. I'd rather see Chiesa ahead of Gakpo. I'll be honest with you, because whenever he's played on the left, even for Juventus or Italy, he's always shown great end product. But for me, he's I don't know what it is. I don't think Chiesa's quite ready to play full 90 minutes at that intense level. But then again, maybe he plays an hour. But even that, I don't know if he's quite ready yet. So looks like the coach doesn't have a lot of faith in him. Maybe due to not quite being equipped to the intensity of the game, especially in England. Um, But if he finds himself fully fit, I would like to see Chiesa ahead of Gakpo. I wouldn't even argue with that. On paper, if you looked at what they bring to the table, I do think Chiesa is a better player. I think he's smarter on and off the ball. He's a better finisher. He has more variation in his play. He finds himself in good little pockets, which would help when you've got a player like Perkins who overlaps on that left hand side as well. So I agree, but I just don't think Arsenal favors him in that manner, which is for me a bit of a shame because in Chiesa's heyday, he's probably one of the best wingers in world football. So that's how I feel about Chiesa. Honestly speaking, like Rios, I don't know. Possibly, maybe it's the maturity in my way of thinking, but maybe it's because I've seen a lot of young players come through the ranks at Liverpool that I'm sure we can all name a lot of players that we thought that were going to be the next big thing, and they unfortunately haven't delivered. So maybe it's a bit of PTSD kicking in for me that just let's slow down. We had Jordan I that came through. He had a lot of high expectations. Unfortunately, maybe we rushed him so too soon in the limelight as well. So we have to be careful in terms of how we get these young players in. I don't want it to be where you've got a player come in and they feel like they've made it. Look at Lamine Yamal. Of course, he's producing a good because he's a generational talent. But even the antics that he's doing off the pitch, I don't want it to be where we see it further down the line that it hinders his legacy as well. So just got to be careful in terms of how we embed these youngsters into the first team and into the limelight. Let's be honest with you. He's barely played minutes, bro. Is that in regards to Chiesa? Yeah, but he's fit, so he should be playing more minutes, in my opinion. But if it's in regards to Rio, yeah, I think he's been used sparingly, but I think we'll slowly game in. I think Southampton will be the game that he starts. So yeah, I'm looking forward to how that one unfolds in the next 2-3 days. But that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you to everyone with the comments. Thank you to Oz and Kabak. Thank you to Lou, Steve, and thank you to Real McCoy. Appreciate your engagement as always, guys. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. In terms of upcoming shows, we'll probably do a match preview of the Liverpool versus Southampton game for the Carabao Cup tie, and then we'll hopefully do a live watch along for that game against Southampton on Tuesday night. So yeah, look out for that. And that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care, stay safe, and I hope to speak with you all very, very soon. Goodbye.